Thank you again. So welcome aboard. So Trend Networks Academy, your trusted knowledge partner for all data network technicians and maintenance professionals. We're here to help. We would like to share our knowledge, help you do what you do best, faster and better for your customers. We'd like to help you solve and maintain networks, which are the foundation of our world and global commerce. Let's get started. 5 steps to troubleshooting networks. Again, welcome aboard, and please, whether you're Trend certified or an expert or considering it, we would like to share tips from the field. All questions are welcome. Please use our chat line, or you may email me directly. I've just got my email on screen now. That's gordon.white@trendnetworks-networks.com, I should say. I'm available to answer your questions at the end of this session, but anything else, please do ask. Okay, so let's get started. We've got a lot to share with you today. The first part is that networks have become foundational to modern businesses and organizations. In fact, if you look around today, we're broadcasting to you from a network, and I'm sure all of you are connected somehow via a network. It is critical. We expect zero downtime, and in today's environment, it's always on. However, IT people really are the professionals here, and the technicians need to work with them, so we need to equip the people with the right tools. So let's work out what we need when we're managing live networks. If we look around an office, we can see that over time, all commercial networks grow in scale and complexity. Right now, it's the demand for PoE, Power over Ethernet, and Wi-Fi. So as those increase, it adds complexity to the network. You can imagine when something goes wrong, what would happen behind the scenes. So again, we're going to share some of the top 5 things. We're going to keep it as simple as possible. You can imagine this is quite complex, but we're going to try and focus on the 5 things to get started and how we can help. We'll introduce SignalTEK QT Pro because that is the perfect piece to cover these items. So next thing is your IT manager. Typically, when we talk with IT professionals, they are experts and they typically use laptops in a live and active network to run the analysis. And this is a very specialist job. So well done to them. So from connecting switches, running software updates, that is a part and parcel of the job. However, when we go to connect these networks to the piece of infrastructure, technicians working even with IT people need the right test tools. Today, let me show you and let me explain how and why this is different. So let's go through what we already know. We know networks, we're very, very familiar with them. Buildings with cables all connecting together. Please let me share that, first of all, data cables are installed by a traditional installer, and that installer must certify that infrastructure. Okay, right now, modern infrastructure going in needs to be tested and certified to DCRU. We'll talk about that later at the back end of this slide set. So the idea is, first of all, infrastructure goes in as a part of the building layout or the new network as you move in onto site, and that would be certified. And then in comes yourself and your IT professionals. And well done. And this is where typically we're managing that network with a laptop. So analysis, data analysis, switch analysis, updates are all done typically via a laptop. And that's quite common. Now to the network team or the person needing to connect to that network. Let's think about that. That's quite tricky. So your laptop isn't really going to connect to fiber. It isn't really going to show you where a break is. It's not really going to show you PoE. And in some cases, it might show you a bit of Wi-Fi. So a dedicated tool is required for an active network. And this is what today's session is really, really about. Fundamental steps for troubleshooting and having the right piece of equipment. Okay, I hope that helps. So here we are. The top 5 things to do when troubleshooting networks. Let's go through it. So a lot of us are very familiar with this. I'm going to put a little bit of a spin on it to help you. And let's go through. So first of all, very obvious, let's identify the problem. What's not working? Is it affecting one or many devices? Okay, so that's quite simple. And typically that's done with a laptop. Okay, next one is connection verification. Hello, this gets interesting now. So I'll put that in bold. Step 2, so verification, checking connectivity, copper, fibers in buildings, patch cords are in buildings, and Wi-Fi links as well. Let's go to the next one. IP verification. So we need to check for the actual network. Is my switch connected to other switches? Do I have the right speed? Has it gone from a 10G switch down to 1G? And do I have a Wi-Fi signal strength? So step 3 really is very interesting because we have a variety of media and a variety of things we need to check. Step 4 is quite interesting now, and we're seeing a lot of discussions around power over Ethernet. So right now, ensuring power delivery and do you have enough power and tested under load is critical. Why is that? Is that we're noticing the movement to power over Ethernet devices has really reached and continues reaching its pinnacle where it's very popular to connect security cameras, Wi-Fi, all sorts of devices via PoE. So that leads to resilience. So this is the last step. What if that problem, power, drops out? What do we need to do? And this is the tip here. What if the problems persist? Please go back and make sure, was that link certified with DCRU? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So summary is the step 1, typically done by a laptop, and typically the IT manager, well done, he's got that under control. So is it a full outage? Is it one device? Or is it just a problemized link? However, steps 2, 3, and 4 are very, very important. This is where we really need a testing tool or a hand tool to connect in and start taking deeper diagnostics between the media that you're connecting to and the switching format, okay? And lastly, I mentioned the need to have a balanced PoE system ready for 90 watt. So the deal is around 90 watt. So that would be a certifier, okay? And we'll cover that on the very end. Let's get started. So in this session, we're going to introduce you to SignalTEK QT Pro. So you've heard the 5 steps of troubleshooting. What I'd like to do is do a live demo now. This is a live session. Anything can go wrong. I've got my technical manager with me, my director. I'm going to switch over and please stay online. We're going to do a live demonstration. We have a screen here. We have the SignalTEK QT. I'm looking forward to showing you this. So being a hot new product, let's have a look. So 5 steps to troubleshooting networks. What do we need to do? Firstly, we talked about identifying the problem was the key thing. The second part is connecting into the network, connection verification. So I just want to show you that what we can do is just check a connection. And on board here, we've got copper connectivity, fiber, Wi-Fi, okay? And in the center, we've got IP capability, IP diagnostics. Let's just show you. So I have a piece of cable here. So the connectivity side, I need to check, do I have a connection? So you can imagine I could check a patch cord. So I'm just going to go onto the screen now and run a qualification test. Okay. So it has a live wire map feature. It's instantly wire map that. We can also run a test to see, can I get 10G through it? So it's just going to take a minute. I'm going to take a 10G test on that link. And when that's completed, we'll know that this lead is good enough to connect back on the system and to do our test. So you can imagine you could also be checking a link. Should it be suspicious to say, what speed can I get through that? So remember, all infrastructure should always have been certified previously. And then when a link's live, we can go back and check to see, can we get those speeds through? Okay, so that's done. Let's just exit that. It's going to ask me what I'd like to save that. I'm going to say, no, I won't save that one. Let's just go back. So what we have here is the next step. Are you ready for it? Step 2. So actually I should say step 3. So first step was identifying the problem. Step 2 was connectivity. So I have connectivity check. 3 is where we start looking at the live network. Okay, so in this case, in my demo, let's have a look. I'll need a minute now as we connect up. We're going to do a network scan. So typically IT technicians would be walking to a live site. They're going to connect in, so as I have just done, connected in, and we're going to check to see what have we got. So this is going live now. So we went from a cable test to having a look to see what can we find from this network. It will need a few moments to start connecting in, and you'll watch as it learns more. So as it learns more, we're going to see this being populated. I'm just going to click on this now so you can see straight away, I can see 1 gig. Got a gig, great. So now I've got a network speed there. I can connect into a live device, which is moving. Maybe you're expecting 10G, and straight away it's telling you, I've only got 1G. So you can connect into that and see a little bit more. In this case, I can just drill down to see 10, half duplex or full duplex, 100, half duplex, and right up to 1G. So if that's as you expect it to work, great. And the second part is PoE status. Maybe you're expecting PoE on that line. Critical element I mentioned before. Straight away, no PoE. That could solve your problem straight away. So lots to learn from that screen. Let's go back. I'm just going to go back a little bit further, but now we can see here, I mentioned watch it populate. Here is a little bit more about the step 3 part, about what am I connected to. In fact, it's popped our answer here, but let's just go in here. So a lot of networks may have VLAN capability. They may have a bit more information about them. That might be stopping you from connecting in, but let's have a look. We're just going to go in here, and you can see there's various protocols. If you're unfamiliar, there's CDP, LLDP. CDP is Cisco Discovery Protocol. LDP is Link Layer Discovery Protocol. In this case, we can get a bit of information about the switch. So imagine if you're unsure of that port, you've now got the details of that switch here. Okay, so very, very helpful. So we can start tracing and we know where to go. Okay, so example is we've found our problem. This system is offline. In this case, I know it's offline because I've disconnected it. Okay, but there you go. So I hope you can see we've done a qualification test, copper qualification test. We've done the step 3, how much of my network can I see and how much can I learn from that. If that network was connected and I knew that I was investigating a slow performing network, I could also do traceroute and ping. I like traceroute because it looks at the hops it takes to go out if we're looking at connection points, and that's very, very helpful. We can cover that another day, just as we can look at fiber connection in the same way. The amazing thing about Qt Pro is the capability to do fiber. Again, to keep this short, we'll do fiber another day in a deeper dive. I'd like to show you Wi-Fi. Why? Typically in offices, we all have Wi-Fi. I'm just going to jump on here, press the channels button to have a quick look. Give it a moment whilst it has a look for some channels. Sometimes you can have overlaps, but let's see what we get whilst it picks up. Whilst it's having a look around, we have the standard 2.45 gigahertz as to be expected. Wi-Fi 6 and 7 will be covered with an additional aerial of your choice that you can add, subject to the regions that you're in. Now, so what have we got? At 2.4, we can see our channels here, and we can see how many devices are stacked in those channels. So that's a quick overview, very quickly, that's fine. And in this case, we can't see anything overlapping each other. Great. If we were worried about saturation, very quickly at the bottom here, we can see how much utilization within those channels. So right now, we're not at 70%, we're quite well below, so we're quite fine. Let's just jump to 5G, just to have a look. You can see here, our channels are much closer together, okay? Once again, utilization isn't too bad. If we wanted to look at that in detail over time, let's just see if we can get into there. It looks like my touchscreen on here is not doing that so well. Let's just go back here and I might just see if we can do a live session there. So what we can do is now go back to the main menu and we can look at some diagnostics. So what I was doing there on the screen was we're having a look at the Wi-Fi diagnostics. I can also connect in to a live wireless network as well. In this case, I can connect into mine and we can have a closer look at how much is connected there. So the important thing is we can see here in red very quickly, just a note that there's all these devices in red which are competing. So that's the idea here. Quickly, what's in red, what's competing, and that'll help as well. So you can see here, we've got a lot. Okay, so I'm just going to skip out of that. And here we go, and let's just skip out of that. Here we go. And we're just going to get back to our main screen. So the idea here today was to show you how quickly I could do a cable test. Did that. Up to 10G very, very easily. We can look at some network diagnostics. We can get the switch diagnostics you need, okay? Fibers there is available, and Wi-Fi. So once again, we could do a Wi-Fi scan, see those APs. We could see utilization if need be, and then we can have a quick look at how much competition is going on in those areas. So I hope that helps. That's really, really exciting. We'll take a deeper dive with SignalTEK QT further, but this is about the 5 steps to troubleshooting. Okay, so we're going to summarize our last part here, which is so important. So once again, identifying the problem. Typically laptops are used, and that works really well. IT managers have that completely covered. You know, well done, they are professionals in that area, but sooner or later you'll need to connect to a network. So the idea of showing you QT Pro is its capability, its functionality covers everything you need, the fundamental things of a network. So let's go to step 2. So the idea quickly was to verify. In that case, I showed a patch cord, but that would be a live link. You could, sorry, not a live link. That would be a link, a passive link that you could check. So just want to confirm we can check it to 1, 2.5, 5, and 10G. So if you're not running full 10G, it can still work on standard Cat 5, Cat 6. Okay. So once again, verification is important. I want to share that the idea is that first all cables are installed and certified. Again, you must do DCRU. Okay. And then whilst those cables are installed in a building, we can come back, and as you turn them live, you can use the QT Pro to connect and test across that for 10G. Okay. So the same thing would go for fiber, and this is the amazing part about SignalTEK QT Pro. We have the capability to do that in fiber. So what I just want to confirm here is that we can now test length. So go in and do a fiber optic test, and check for length, and we can see pass fail. In fact, we can take it up to 100G just by looking at the dB. So we get some insertion loss measurements from that. So I'll cover that off in another day. This session is introducing the steps for network troubleshooting, and we're looking at just verification, so connection verification. Okay, so copper and fiber connection verification. The next step, step 3, which is what I'd shown in the live demo, is that you can connect the tester now live into the live port, copper or fiber, and this is where you can start getting the switch details, the CDPs, the LLDP. You can get VLANs. And I mentioned the description of the switch. So imagine you're connecting into that port, you can get the details so you can work out where that switch is. Okay. Ping and traceroute, I mentioned I love traceroute because you see the hops. If need be, we can do that in another session. And NetScan allows you to see the connected community. So step 3, got you covered. Everything is in there. With step 3 also, you must add Wi-Fi. So you can imagine there's so much complexity in these modern networks. What about the Wi-Fi? So in this case, I've just grabbed some screens in here. You can see at the top screen, we've got a band of channels which are overlapping. But the important thing is you can see channel overlap. You can see utilization. Okay. You can also add additional devices or connections to SignalTEK QT, such as a directional antenna, if you wanted to pursue and find and locate where antennas are. That will be amazing. Okay. Now on to step 4. Ensuring PoE delivery. I mentioned that we were going to start wrapping up on this. So we're heading towards the end. Step 4 is PoE delivery. So there's 2 elements to that. First of all cabling infrastructure needs to be tested at DCRU for balance. I'll explain at a later stage. But right now, if it's live, was our switch giving us enough PoE and against a standard? So the idea is now with the advent of 90 watt 802.3 BT, so that's the standard, IEEE standard, we need to check, do we have enough? And that's across all 4 pairs. Okay, so we could do a small load test, a brief load test to make sure we've got enough. This is critical now for every time we deploy and work on networks. Now to this last part, step 5. So in the ISO European sectors, anyone using ISO, we typically have the need to test for DCRU anyway. However, TIA, countries using TIA, have taken the mandatory step, just to make you familiar with that. So anyone in a TIA country or follows those guidelines, it is now mandatory where you must test a DCRU. And this brings us back to the original point, is where the certification is so critical. So why is that important? Let's have a look. So the difference between using a live network tester, which is perfect CT. So SignalTEK QT is perfect for an operational network, but when we first install the infrastructure, we've got a test for DCRU. And what is that? Got it on screen now. So got that on screen now. It's more about the twisted pairs and the quality of the connected points. We use a radio test. We use a tester that looks at the electrical frequencies. That's a certifier to define that. Okay, so it's the balance across all 4 pairs. We can cover that in another session if you'd like, but right now, DCRU is imperative. Okay, and why is that imperative? So switches actually have a cutoff point inside. So just to let you know, if you're working in a high temperature zone where temperatures are reaching above 45 degrees and you've got long cable runs, consider this as, once again, we're talking about the 5 steps of troubleshooting networks. I talked about QT helping you with all the network connectivity, and I'm ending on the importance to make sure did you test for DCRU. Why? Because if there's an imbalance on those pairs, the switch could cut out. So once again, certification is still important for the fundamental parts of the first fit in the installation of the network. So let's share where we are now. We're just wrapping up now. Summary is that live or a building or infrastructure typically has a fiber backbone as we connect buildings, and they install spare cores. So you imagine we've got to allow for expansion, because it's very, very difficult when we first install all this mass of cable into a building. At the first point, we allow for expansions. So you can imagine cable infrastructure, fiber in a building. Next part would be the copper or twisted pair infrastructure going into the building as well. That could be Cat 6, Cat 6A. So typically links are added and then certified at that point. And for the interesting one, where a lot of this is very, very interesting, is a lot of companies are using consolidation points in the roof where they can allow expansion later, or in floor boxes. In fact, the room I'm working from right now, which is a boardroom, uses floor boxes. If I was to lift the lid off one of those, there's dust in there. There's dust in amongst those connectors. And the example is this would have been certified, handed over to us. However, as we make those links live, has that dust contaminated those links? This is where QT is really, really important. So like I said, it's been certified for DCRU, but QT can be used to check for 10G. We would then go through connecting up lighting, connecting up access points if need be. We can add all these other pieces of equipment which we can utilize the QT for to connect into and manage the power over Ethernet and checking for that live network community. So very, very useful. And once again, as we merge towards information display screens, a lot of those devices require 90 watts. This is why now DCRU is very, very important. So I hope that summarizes the need to always have certified network first and then manage your live network with SignalTEK QT Pro. It's going to cover everything you need, the core fundamentals for live network operation and maintenance. Right, so again, just wrapping up, you may be sitting in an area like this, and where twisted pair, Wi-Fi and PoE deployed, traditional Wi-Fi phones are kind of left the room, and it looks like this, and here you go. SignalTEK QT Pro addresses those fundamentals. Once again, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that session. We are here to help yourself, your businesses learn more and do more with Trend Networks products. Thank you again. We'll take on questions if you'd like to stay and chat with us, or please do contact me via email. So looking forward to seeing you soon. We've got a first question here. Thank you so much. From Antonio, do you have any certification training? Well, for QT Pro, we'll certainly have an online training in the Trend Networks Academy coming soon, so please do watch that space. We're going to add all the features, functions of the amazing device and help you walk through it and unlock it. So that will be coming soon. So stay with us on that. So thank you again for that lovely question. We have another question. Thank you so much, Davey. What a fantastic question. For those of which are familiar with the Trend Networks range, we have a product called SignalTEK 10G Pro, a really amazing, fully functional bandwidth tester. So this is a traditional transmission bandwidth tester, absolutely amazing. Okay, and the question is, what is the difference between the SignalTEK 10G Pro and the new released SignalTEK QT? So I hope I can answer that question easily, because there's different ways of working with networks. So first of all, the QT Pro that I've just shown today covers the fundamental things you'd see traditionally in a commercial office network. So we talked about copper twisted pair up to 10G. We talked about fiber optics, verifying the backbone if need be. Okay, and we talked about Wi-Fi, which is a big difference. It's the ability to see Wi-Fi. So it's a big difference. Then also basic network testing. So that's the key that we would want to see, typically 1G to 10G around an office space. So QT Pro covers all of that. Now, when we go to the other device we have with the SignalTEK 10G Pro, it does not have Wi-Fi. It is a transmission tester, which is totally amazing for when you're testing through or commissioning your infrastructure. I'd like you to imagine this. Imagine that we've installed cabling infrastructure and certified it, beautiful. Now in comes the switch. So as the switch team comes in with their laptops and platforms, they start making all these very expensive switches live. So beautiful, it's all coming live. But guess what? It's not under load. We have that product. So Trend Networks has a 10G two-piece item that you can test a piece of cable, a patch cord, a piece of fiber. In fact, cable to switch, through a switch backbone to the other end. That's the difference with SignalTEK 10G Pro. So the 10G Pro has a two-piece transmission tester, which is capable of testing through switches to 10G. Why would you do that? Well, if you want to make sure your network, when being installed, is commission tested up to 72 hours, you could do that with a SignalTEK 10G Pro. Not the QT, but the 10G Pro. So across copper to fiber, straight through this infrastructure. Hope you love that answer. And I'll tell you what, maybe we could do a webinar session on that in future. Thank you again, Davey. And thank you again. We're just going to wrap this session up for today. We really appreciate all those that joined us. We look forward to seeing you soon. And of course, those wonderful questions, really appreciate it. Thank you again, and see you on our next session.